What's a Horcrux? Imagine if you could take a normal everyday object, such as this metal vase, or sort of reminds me of a goblet, and do something extraordinary with it. Specifically, what if you could take a piece of your soul, separate it from yourself, place it in this object, and then hide it away in a cave or a vault or something. And as long as this object remained intact with a piece of your soul attached, you could never die. You wouldn't die of old age or disease, and no one could kill you. Might that sound tempting to you? Do you think it might sound tempting to other people out in the community? If you've read the Harry Potter sequence of novels, you realize there's something I haven't told you yet, which is to create an object like I'm describing. It requires an act of murder. You must snuff out the innocent life of another human being. Because, as Professor Slughorn explains, it is the act of murder that rips the soul apart. Of course, this embodies the greatest abuse of others, the greatest evil of murder. But there's a couple other elements of evil that I would like to draw your attention to. This also represents an obsession with material objects. In Voldemort's case, Voldemort, the villain of the series, he focuses on objects that have a rich magical history, whether it's a ring or a locket, because he thinks that somehow he can imbue himself with this magical history by making these objects out of them. Another element of evil is a pathological fear of death, which is a key motivator for Voldemort and his followers. And indeed, Voldemort is so concerned about not dying here on Earth that he is willing to go out and kill other people and destroy all of the values that we believe make life worth living in the pursuit of everlasting life here on Earth. Now, the term for this object is a Horcrux. Now, you won't find that in a dictionary, but you can find the parts of the word, at least if you look in the big Oxford English Dictionary. Hor means simply filth, and crux means crus or cross. So this is called a filth cross. Now, it might occur to you that Rowling has a particular contrast in mind when she calls this a filth cross. And I suggest that the contrast is simply to the Christian cross. So the Horcrux represents murder. The cross represents sacrificial love for our fellow man. The Horcrux represents an obsession with physical objects. The cross represents a concern with the immortal soul. The Horcrux represents a pathological fear of death, whereas the cross represents a concern with living forever, not on earth, but in some afterlife or heaven. Now, Rowling doesn't make this contrast explicit in her books, but I think she probably intends it, given that she calls this the Horcrux. However, as I argue in my book, Values of Harry Potter, neither the cross nor the Horcrux is the best symbol for the heroes of the novel. Harry Potter and his allies are not about sacrificing themselves and their values. Instead, they're about fighting for their important values, namely their lives, their safety, their liberty, their ability to live and work in peace. Notably, the heroes' values include their loving relationships with others, their family and friends. So the heroes are about fighting for their life-promoting values. Harry Potter and his allies appreciate physical objects, but they don't obsess about them. For example, Harry loves his broomstick, which he flies around in the Quidditch matches. And Harry and his allies certainly fight to preserve their own lives and safety. But they're not so concerned about dying that they're willing to take themselves out of this important fight against Voldemort. And certainly they recognize that there are values that they need to fight to maintain. It's as Sirius Black says, some things in life are worth dying for. In other words, there are some things in life that we need to maintain in order to make life worth living. The integrity of our soul, our loving relationships with family and friends, our liberty. So it is this message that I think is central to the Harry Potter books, and I think it's a pretty powerful and important message, especially for a series of books often called children's tales.